Welcome back to Analytical Media. We are a group or consortium of college professors, well-published, peer-reviewed researchers, and therapists. Today's question: what are sovereign citizens? Are they mentally ill? Are they scam artists? Are they just outlaws? And I thought the best way to answer this question factually would be to look at a recent filing in the 8th District Ohio Court of Appeals. It's a fact sheet, State versus Pubill, Pubill. This is a sovereign citizen vandalism case. The case was decided November 20th of this year. So here's the background. December 8th, 2023, Cleveland, Ohio. Oswald Pubill, Jr. walked into the Federal Reserve Bank on East 6th Street carrying a sock with a padlock inside. In full view of security cameras and police officers, he swung it twice at the bulletproof emergency door, leaving marks. The glass had to be replaced at major expense. He was charged with 1 count of felony vandalism. He had a jury trial, and he was sentenced to 12 months in prison. Pubill's behavior in court and jail all was found to be deliberate and volitional. Volitional means he had complete control over what he did. He did it voluntarily. He did it under full control of his mouth, his mental capacity, his behavior. It was his own volition to do what he did. Nothing else caused it. There was no reason for it. He simply decided to do it on his own impetus. The court, trial plus appeal, described him as a classic obstructionist sovereign citizen who understands everything but chooses to disrupt the courtroom, the prison facility, the jails. Now here's what he did. For the pre-trial, which occurred in 2024, he refused to leave his cell. He refused video visits with his own lawyer more than 5 times. He would go limp during transport, so they had to drag him or carry him, or put him in a wheelchair, and he constantly gave deputies the middle finger. The court described his behavior this way: uncooperative obstructionist, meaning he was trying to stop the proceedings, to interfere with the proceedings, to not allow them to occur. And it was volitional. He had full control over it, what he did. At the competency hearing, because very often sovereign citizens are given competency hearings to see if they are mentally ill or not, in almost every case, they're ruled not mentally ill or competent, in almost every case. During that 2024 hearing, he kept his head down and his middle finger up the whole time. The judge said to him, quote, "Your behavior is completely volitional. I'm just not going to tolerate it," end quote. In 2025, January, he had a fake hunger strike. They caught him smuggling peanut butter in his cheek. So he was really eating. He was just not letting them know he was eating. He brought in his own peanut butter. He refused to dress for court, and he had up his middle finger the whole time. The judge had to say about this, quote, "willful, voluntary obstructionist." During the jury selection in March of 2025, he was silent in the courtroom with his middle finger up until the jury entered. When they entered, he began screaming. This is what the judge had to say: "This is how you behaved last time. Your whole thing has been to obstruct and delay." In the second day of the trial, he immediately began screaming when the jury walked in. He was removed from the courtroom. The trial continued without him. he watched it via Zoom. Now here are the key court findings. Pupil has a long documented history from 2012 to 2022 of identical behavior in multiple felony cases. He has been evaluated for competency at least 6 times. Every single time he was found competent and fully able to understand the case and to help his lawyer if he wanted to. 6 times he was judged not to be mentally ill. 6 times. So I think that answers that part of the question. Are sovereign citizens mentally ill? No. Very, very rarely. It would be safe to say that perhaps 99%, or at least safe to say around that percentage, when evaluated, and many of them are, sometimes multiple times, as in this case, 6 times, almost every time they were found not to be mentally ill. They were competent, normal people. The doctor said his refusal to cooperate was a deliberate choice, not mental illness. He was even caught coaching other inmates on how to fake hearing voices so that they could get a lighter sentence, teaching them how to pretend to be mentally ill so to get a lighter sentence. He writes, and this is from the court, he writes long, neat, handwritten letters claiming to be a sovereign citizen and refusing to consent to the authority of the court. So he's admitting he's a sovereign citizen, and he's refusing to consent to the court's authority. Well, that's an old argument with sovereign citizens, part of the scam. They believe you have to consent. You have to consent to everything. You have to consent to being arrested. You have to consent to go to jail. You have to consent to go to court. And if you don't consent, you don't go to court, you don't go to jail, you don't get arrested. And here are some more quotes from the judge. Quote, he has actually counseled other defendants to feign mental illness to try to gain advantage in the system. That has been documented. That is the trial judge quoting the 2022 psychology report. Next quote, some people believe with great fervor preposterous things that just happen to coincide with their self-interest. That's a quote from Judge Easterbrook's famous line, paragraph 41. Some people believe with great fervor preposterous things that just happen to coincide with their self-interest. And that's been a long contention from analytical media, that these people, sovereign citizens, everything they believe benefits them. They don't believe that there's one bad thing about being a sovereign citizen. They give you all of this pretend legal nonsense. They make it up. It's all pretend. They look at the criminal code and they mix it up with the civil code and take this from here and that from there to put together things that make it sound like the United States government is not valid. It's really a branch still of Britain. Just totally ridiculous things. And that's what he means by preposterous. And they do it with great excitement, fervor, drive, and it just happens to coincide with their self-interest. You know, it's not ironic that everything they believe, including that there's hundreds of millions of dollars in a secret bank account waiting for each person, which is a nice thought, but it's not true. Or that they don't have to get insurance on their car, they don't have to follow any laws, none, which gives them total freedom. But if there was a law that said that they had to pay 200% more than is required for income tax, you would find no sovereign citizens because they don't believe they have to pay income tax. And it's coincidental that everything they believe in benefits them. And there's nothing they believe in that doesn't benefit them. Like you have to pay double your Social Security tax, or double your income tax, or you all have to join the military. Nothing. And that's what the judge means by preposterous things, what they believe. And they believe it with great fervor. And those things they believe with great fervor just happens to coincide with their self-interest. So, do they really, truly believe these things? I think the answer is no. They just believe in things that coincide with their self-interest. They want to drive fast, they can. They don't want to buy insurance, they don't have to. They don't have to have a license to drive. And of all the things they believe in, all of the hundreds of arguments you hear them put forward, none of them are detrimental. Like you could say, well, you know what, being a sovereign citizen is 90% great, 90% good, 10% bad. Well, that'd be pretty good. 51% good and 49% bad would be good. It's a winning hand there. But it's all good. Everything they believe in is good. And the court goes on to say, quote, self-identified sovereigns, while deeply misinformed, are not necessarily incompetent to stand trial. Merely believing in fringe views does not mean someone cannot cooperate with his lawyer or understand the judicial proceedings. I mean, what they do is so ridiculous, and what they believe so ridiculous, that the average American, when they find out about sovereign citizens, say, they must be crazy. They got to be crazy. Dear God, they must be mentally ill. Because what they're doing is so ridiculous, what they're saying is so asinine. They believe that the fringe around the flag in courtrooms and government buildings, it signifies a British Admiralty court, a court that occurs on the high seas. British court on the ships in the middle of the ocean, that's a sovereignty court. And they believe that in the American courtroom, that fringe coming off the flag means it is a British Admiralty court. Now, he appealed it, and his 12-month sentence was affirmed. Court ruled the trial judge was 100% correct. No new competency exam was needed because pupils' antics were proven to be deliberate disruption, not mental illness. Bottom line, perfect example of a sovereign citizen who knows exactly what he's doing, wastes everyone's time, and still gets convicted because courts now recognize the playbook and they refuse to play along. So let's go back to the original question. What are sovereign citizens? They're people who don't believe the American government is legitimate, and they are substituting their own government. They refuse to follow the Constitution or the laws of the country. That's what they are. Now, are these people mentally ill? No. Repeatedly, they have been tested and retested. And in the case of Pupil, they've been tested 6 times. Are they scam artists? Yes, they are. They are scam artists. They're trying to get away with something. They're trying to pull the wool over the court, over police officers. Are they good citizens? I'm going to add that part to the question. They are not good citizens. Good citizens may hate a law, but they follow it. And if they don't follow it, they expect to be punished and would not complain about the punishment. Good citizen helps a police officer, honestly. And remember the story of Socrates and the cup of hemlock. Hemlock was a poison. Socrates was loved all over Greece, ancient Greece. And he wasn't guilty of a crime. So he was tried. He was arrested and went through a trial, but never went to prison because it wasn't like that thousands of years ago. Before telephones, televisions, satellites, automobiles, paved roads. It was a completely different world. So he's tried, not in handcuffs. He didn't come from jail. There was no jail. So he went to a public meeting place, and he was tried, he was judged, and they found him guilty. And that was a capital offense. It meant he was sentenced to death. Now, nobody came to arrest him, to drag him away. He went home. And when he was home, all of his followers wanted him to leave Greece. They wanted to take him away. Nobody would find him. Nobody would know. You couldn't call the next county over to say, watch out for Socrates. There were no radios. There were no phones. He could have walked away. There was no guard. And anyway, he had great followers who would gladly have died for him. But he believed in law and order so much. He believed in government so much that as a good citizen, he decided, instead of leaving Greece, that he would drink the cup of poison and die. And he did. He drank the cup of poison and died. Nobody forced him to. If he wanted to follow the law, make an example of why you need to follow the law, he would have to drink the cup of poison. But nobody could make him drink it. In fact, his followers, they didn't want him to drink it. Now, they wanted him to leave. If you go to college today, you're going to find out about Socrates. You might find out about him in high school. He's still one of the philosophers that are most talked about. You're always, if you take an intro to philosophy class, you're going to always discuss Plato and Socrates. Fundamental, foundational. And remember, he wasn't guilty of the crime. He was not guilty. But the law, he followed the law. The law said he had to die. Think about it, drinking a cup of poison. And you know, in prisons today, we do everything we can to stop people from killing themselves. Condemned prisoners. That might be something we might want to think about. Is that a ridiculous idea? The state wants to kill you 6 months from today, but they won't allow you to kill yourself because that's against the law in most states, to kill yourself, suicide. How totally asinine. If you think it was stupid for Socrates to drink the poison, think how stupid it is to stop people who will be killed by the state from committing suicide. I mean, don't you think once a week the guard should come to the cell and say, hey, if you want to kill yourself, get this little bottle of poison here, some pills, you'll just fall asleep and die. Put them over on the bench there, and if you haven't used them by the morning, we'll take them back, and the next week you get another chance. But it's hard for beginning students, younger students of philosophy or psychology. It's hard for them to understand why Socrates killed himself. He wasn't guilty. He was not guilty. And he could have escaped. I mean, he could have walked away. Nobody was going to chase him. There was nobody to chase him. He could have walked right away, said bye to everybody in a courtroom. Hey, see you, I'm leaving Greece. Come and find me in France or Italy. I'll probably go to Italy, it's closer. And they goes, oh, we'll see you, Socrates. Take it easy, bud. Hey, nobody could stop him. This is true. Nobody would have tried to stop him. Nobody cared. The court didn't believe he'd kill himself, but he did. And that might be why thousands of years later, we're still talking about Socrates. That's a good citizen. So when a cop stops you, should you argue with him? And watch the videos on YouTube. These cops aren't being idiots. They're not giving them a hard time. It's a sovereign citizen that's giving a cop a hard time. They only lower their window an inch. And the cop's saying, could you put your window down a little more? I'm in traffic here and I can't hear you. And then the cop oftentimes turns his head sideways so his ear's in the little crack. And if anybody in that car had a gun, that'd be instant death to that cop. because he's no longer looking in the car, he's looking down the road because he has to turn his head sideways. No, it's not in the question, but they are not good citizens. They are the opposite. And finally, it says, are they just outlaws? And that's it. Ding, ding, ding. You win. They are outlaws. They are absolutely people who have decided to live outside the existing law. The existing law that you and I live within. We might not like having to get our license. We might not like speeding tickets and having to pay $150, $200 fine, or getting points on your license. We might not like any of it, but we do it. In that case, we're like Socrates, except we're guilty. We know we're guilty when we get the speeding ticket. If you steal something in a store, you know you shoplifted. If you robbed a bank, you know you robbed a bank. And you know you could go to jail, and you're not saying the system's corrupt. There is no United States government. You know, you did the crime, you paid your time. But then again, we have outlaws. People who don't believe in the law, they disagree, they argue. And remember, sovereign citizens have killed cops. Killed them. Many fights break out with sovereign citizens. Police are injured. One had an ear bitten off, another one had a finger bitten off. And that's what you get when you run around with outlaws. And though, if you talk to a police officer today, they will not recognize, when they see people behaving like a sovereign citizen, using sovereign citizen arguments, behaviors, they don't roll the window down, they don't want to give their license or their name, they say they're traveling, not driving, they say their car is not a car, it's an automobile. They say it's not an automobile, it's convenience to convey them. A conveyance and a convenience, better than walking. They say it's their personal property, not a car, not an automobile, because you got to have a license to drive a car or an automobile or a motorized vehicle. So by far, that's the best way to think of sovereign citizens. They've chosen to live outside the law. And so what is that? Someone who chooses to live outside the law? That's what we call an outlaw or outlaws. They just choose to live outside the law. We've recognized them throughout history. This is Analytical Media. I hope you've enjoyed today's little discussion. I hope it's given you something to think about. I hope you will subscribe or like the video or recommend it to someone so other people can benefit from this. That's how the algorithm works. We hope that everything's gone well for you, your family, your friends. And we hope you like what you're hearing, and we hope that you will come back. If it's making a difference at all, if it's helping, if it's providing you some insight, giving you something to think about, that's enough. Just something to think about. Come back. I also hope you can see that our research is current. We're bringing you court records almost always from the current year, and oftentimes from the current month. We are researchers, well-published and peer-reviewed, meaning other experts, recognized published experts, have had our materials submitted to them so that they might be acceptable, publishable, according to the existing experts. We, by the way, have those same materials submitted to us. Often, very often, weekly, or seemingly weekly, we are asked to review a publication submission for one journal or another. If you've enjoyed this for any reason, subscribe, like it, recommend it to a friend. Until then, until we put up another video, and I hope you subscribe because you'll be notified when we do. Until then, good luck and Godspeed.